Good morning. It is August 18th, and this is Turfgrass Team Times Live. We are live, and you're going to have the ability to ask us awkward questions, and that's absolutely fine. Online today, we've got Dr. Tyler Carr, Dr. David Shetlar, Dr. David Gardner, Dr. Florence Sessoms, Todd Hicks, and Pamela Sherratt, and Maranda Berger. Florence Sessoms has just joined us and started this week. I'm going to say, Dr. Flo, can you give us a little bit insight on your background and what you're looking to do within the turfgrass industry and community?
Yeah, thank you, Ed, for the introduction. So, I'm fresh coming from Minnesota, enjoying the Ohio weather right now. It's very great. A little bit rainy, but it's better than the drought as we have in Minnesota. Anyway, so my background is plant microbe interaction and specifically mycorrhizal interaction. So I have like a couple of years of experience in turfgrass. I was a researcher under the direction of Eric Walkings since 2016. No, yeah, 2016. Wow, it's a long time. And so I learned a lot with him about like the wonderful world of turfgrass. And so I work on heat stress, drought stress, um, wells, and I did a little bit of breeding too with him. So what I would like to do now, this is combine my experience in turfgrass and my background in plant microbe interaction and try to really work on like what type of biostimulant, what type of mycorrhiza could be used to improve like turf health and maybe reduce like the nutrient inputs. So this is a type of research that I would like to develop here at OSU. Thanks.
Thank you, Flo. Extremely interesting, and at the moment, a very important area that we are very happy to have you come in and help us with. All right, with the world of weeds and herbicides and all those potential problems, Dr. David Gardner, what have we got?
All right, good morning, everybody. Allow me to share my screen real quick. All right, so after the middle of August, it becomes really easy to control annual grasses. And at least here at the field center, by the middle of September, they start declining on their own without any herbicidal intervention. That said, if you want to control crabgrass at this time, you don't really have to worry about the fancy mixes that I was talking about the last time that we spoke. Either quinclorac or topramazone at their label rate by themselves should be adequate to control crabgrass at this point in the season. Do make sure that you're mowing to reduce seed head development so that you're trying to reduce the seed bank that's potentially there for next year. And also, if you had a severe crabgrass infestation, maybe make a note of that so that you can plan on applying a pre-emergence herbicide to that area next spring. Now, if you have goosegrass, and that's more likely in southern Ohio than northern Ohio, but be aware that there is a difference, multiple florets per spikelet as opposed to the individual flowers on crabgrass, but it's a different species, right? The important point here is that quinclorac, which is very common and popular as a grassy weed control, is relatively less effective on goosegrass. So you would want to use either our old friend phenoxyprop, originally marketed as a claim, or topramazone. Okay, same thing about reducing seed head development and mapping out for future pre-emergence applications. If you had a heck of a time with winter annual weeds this last spring, know that they were there because they start germinating in the month of September. And so if you had areas where you had a lot of winter annual weeds, then know that while you can control them in the spring, that tends to not work as well as controlling them post-emergence in late fall, but that doesn't work as well as just go ahead and throw down a pre-emergence herbicide, the same ones that you would use for crabgrass control sometime in early September. Last thing I wanted to talk about is our old friend fountain grass. So this is a very popular ornamental grass species that we use for decoration in our landscapes. The thing is that this does a pretty good job of spreading into turf and it can survive mowing, but it doesn't thrive when it's mowed. The leaf blade tends to shred in such a way that it's really aesthetically displeasing. And so this is something that has been occasionally reported in turf since the year 2010. However, I had like 3 calls on this last week, so I felt inspired to talk about it this week. If you see that, quinclorac, come to find out, actually works pretty well to control that. You need 2 applications, 2 weeks apart, 0.367 fluid ounces per gallon. You can also do glyphosate as a non-selective control, but quinclorac, the 2 applications, is purported to give you nearly 100% control of that particular species. The other thing you could do, of course, is just keep it away from turf. So here's an example of fountain grass growing surrounded by concrete, which makes it a lot less likely that it's going to spread vegetatively into your lawn spaces. Ed, that's what I have for this week.
Thank you, David. Surrounded in concrete. Nice. Pamela Sherratt, so we got the sports turf end.
Good morning, everybody. Well, with the timely rains that we've had a lot of rain. And the temperatures are very nice at the moment, actually. I think we've been in mid-upper 70s the last couple of days, lots of rain. So the grass is growing like crazy, looking really good right now, except those areas that were recently established. We've had a lot of construction going on in my neighborhood, and I've noticed while I'm driving around, a lot of the new construction that's going on, most of these lawns don't have great soil. And so I know in my particular neighborhood, I have noticed a ton of rust. So I have rust disease on these new establishments because we've had so many rains. I'm not sure that any fertilizer went out with the seed. And so Todd's going to follow me. He can talk about rust a little bit more, but I am seeing a lot of that out there. Football and soccer has started this season. So high school ramped up and those fields are in play. Looking great right now. As I said, the weather's been conducive to healthy growth. So I'm not getting any calls about any major problems on athletic fields right now because of everything that's going on with the weather. I am working with the team. We have a seed establishment. We have a seed establishment series out right now. My part of that is soil amendments, how to produce a good quality seed bed, getting ready for your seed establishment. So that will be posted online today. We'll have photographs, we'll have text on there and references about how you can amend the soil, improve the soil, and create a great seed bed. So watch out for that later today. And then I just one last plug for the Ohio Sports Field Managers Association conference, fall conference coming up at the Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Tuesday, September the 12th. Faculty from OSU will be speaking at that, as well as industry professionals, and you can register at the Ohio Turfgrass website. That's all I have. Thank you, Ed.
Thank you, Pamela. And Dr. Gardner mentioned that his shoes were bright orange on Tuesday when he was taking data at the farm. So he made a slight misspelling and called it orange, whatever that is. Todd Hicks, disease updates.
Good day, everybody. It's been a very interesting 7 to 10 days for disease-wise. Things have really been ramping up disease-wise. Everybody's still being chewed at by dollar spot and leaf spot, although I think those are going to fade away here with the high temperatures coming in. Remember, as soon as the temperatures go back down to normal for the fall, it'll come right back up. So be very careful with those ones. I'm getting anthracnose samples into the diagnostic center. So if you've been hit by a lot of these rain showers, and a lot of courses are dealing with a lot of events right now, so they're really beating up their greens and tees. Be careful with that. Get a nap out before this heat happens. You don't want to go into the heat fighting anthracnose. And if you are fighting anthracnose, remember, use a really good fungicide and make sure you're on a phosphite program to help out with turf health. Brown patch is kind of done for the year so far. Maybe a little bit will spike up with this heat. I doubt it because we're going to be dry. And the other one that popped this week on Monday, my plots up north got summer patch in them. So if you got Poeño on your greens and you've dealt with it before, and be on the lookout for summer patch to rear its head. If you are a homeowner or dealing with high cut turf that has ryegrass right now has rust, as Pam and Dave said. Easiest way to get rid of that is change over to bluegrass or tall fescue. The hard way to get rid of rust this time of year is try to fertilize your way out of it. Increase your fertility earlier in the year, so you've got healthier turf. The healthier ryegrass is, the better off you are. If rust comes in, it'll be much shorter window for it. But the bottom line is ryegrass gets rust. So it's something you're probably going to have to live with if you can't fertilize your way out of it. That's it for me, Ed.
Todd, would you have any concerns about next week's heat and newly seeded areas?
Yeah, I would. Well, the first one is watering. Two problems there. Most people water too little or too much. take some pie pans out and check your watering, see how much water you're really putting down. Because if you're watering too much, the other problem is going to be Pythium. So if you just want to cover yourself, get a good, strong Pythium material out on your new seedlings to protect them and during this heat.
Thank you, Todd. Okay, Dr. Shetlar.
Not much to report. We're kind of in the summer doldrums. The grubs are developing very nicely as first and probably early second instars, which is too small to cause any damage. Though it's kind of interesting. I saw in my neighbor's yard a little bit of what appeared to be skunk digging around. So they're looking for something. But remember, in this wetter weather, the earthworms are up, and skunks and raccoons do like earthworms, and so don't get that confused with grubs. You'll see a little bit of spot digging here and there when they're hunting for earthworms. Dr. Wu and I got a picture from a lawn care company, an organic lawn care company. We eventually found out last week, and they had seen several big-eyed bugs in some open patches in a turf area. So we thought, oh boy, maybe this is chinch bugs, because big-eyed bugs love to feed on chinch bugs. So we went out on Monday, and sure enough, there were some fairly substantial areas of dead turf in this lawn. This doesn't look like chinch bugs. Chinch bugs is the turf to turn sort of a yellowish orange color. And this was more of a grayish white color. And I said, boy, that looks like bill bugs. And so we did the tug test, reached down and pulled on some of the stems, pull them out. Sure enough, all the stems were filled with that fine sawdust-like frass that the bill bugs leave behind. On a little closer inspection, a lot of that frass looked fairly fresh. But among that was some really old dark brown frass material. We entomologists, we look at the bug poop to try to do our diagnosis. But what that indicates to me is that they had a first generation of the bill bugs and a second generation of the bill bugs. And I want people to be aware of that. We are getting a second generation of bill bugs across the state. And the second generation can cause just as much damage and sometimes even more damage, especially in this wetter conditions where the turf is actively growing. So if you see some dead turf, take a look, get out on your hands and knees, pull some of the stems out, see if you've got bill bugs. Nothing you could do about it this year, but in those dead areas, our recommendation was to use an endophytic turfgrass. And we felt that this was kind of a dappled shade, kind of a yard. We felt that the turf type tall fescues would probably be a better turf grass selection for this particular lawn to reseed. And the lawn care technician agreed that, yeah, they probably need to reseed that, and they'll get on it. And they like the turf type tall fescues also. That's pretty much my insect report. Other than I will admit, I had a little bit of yard work done to replace some of my drain gutters, and of course that left some bare ground. Crabgrass has gone wild in that. So I was pulling out some of the crabgrass and ran into 2 of the common armyworm larvae. Nothing to worry about, weren't causing any visible activity, but they are there. So you might find, if you really look hard, some common armyworm. That's our native species. Then that also reminded me, when I ran my light trap this week, I got my first fall armyworm adults in the light trap. So they have arrived, but they have not come up. There's not going to be any fall armyworm outbreak again this fall with large numbers. That's the only 2 that I've gotten this whole season in my light trap. So I'm not worried about them. They're just not going to be enough. They're going to be another no-show this year. That's all I've got in the buggy world.
Thanks,
Dave,
Dave.
can I ask Dave a quick question, please?
Oh,
Sure.
sorry, Tom, go ahead.
Dave, you were talking about critters that dig. I had a yellow jacket nest by my porch that got me. A few of them got me. I have a resident skunk, and he's loving it. He's been down in there eating those things up. So sometimes those skunks dig for yellow jacket nests too, right?
Yes, the larvae are big, juicy, tasty morsels to them. So they'll go out at night, and it's kind of interesting. At nighttime, the yellow jackets can't fly, so they'll run around. And of course, even if they get on the fur of those animals, they're usually pretty well protected, except right there on their snout where they can get stung. But yeah, they'll go right after them.
Only an entomologist would describe the larvae of a yellow jacket as big, juicy morsel, but okay. And also, thank you for the CSI tactics on your investigating bug dirt or bug poop. Tyler Carr, Dr. Tyler Carr, Maranda Berger, what have we got?
Okay, yeah, I'm now learning that I'm gonna avoid Pam's house with the skunk. So we're not going over the other side of Clintonville to hang out with her. So Todd made a good point about irrigation. I just wanted to make a note that I did some research back when I was at Arkansas for establishing at least tall fescue from seed, and we saw that you didn't really need to apply any more than 100% of daily reference ET. So that comes out to about 2/10 to 1/4 of an inch of water per day. So if you put those catch cans out and measure out how much water you're putting out, you'll probably find that you're putting out a whole lot of water in many cases. And that 1/4 inch may be a good spot to land for now. So the last couple weeks, we have started the Turfgrass Establishment Series, going through soil testing, and now we're into cultivar and species selection. And grad student in the program, Maranda Berger, wrote the latest piece that's on the Buckeye Turf website under the news section. And she's joining us here on Turf Team Times to talk about this. So yeah, she wrote a really good piece. One of the things she talked about was the species selection and what to consider. So Miranda, what are some of the species that we should be looking at in Ohio? What are the pros and cons for those?
Yeah, sorry. We have, when you're first thinking of your turf and what you need to establish, like when you're picking your turf, you should really be thinking of, your environment, your maintenance levels, your soil pH, what type of soil you have. And then all together, I like to think of, if I'm in Florida one day, and I decide to go out golfing, or let's just say if I decide to go out golfing, most of the time I'm not going to find, bent grass on my greens or anything like that. That's because they chose the proper grass to be fitted for their environment. Bent grass really likes cool, moist environments, but they probably go with like a Bermuda grass because it likes the hotter environments. But for Ohio, you're mostly going to be looking at, like perennial ryegrass, Kentucky bluegrass. There's 4 main ones on the article that I talked about, and they all have really good, suitable factors that you should look at when you're trying to establish your cultivars.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned perennial ryegrass, tall fescue, or Kentucky bluegrass. We have tall fescue and the fine fescues as well. So you go to the store and you're like, okay, I want to plant some Kentucky bluegrass. Then you look on the back of the bag and you see all the cultivars listed. How do you know what cultivars to select?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? You broke out for a second.
Oh, sorry. How do we know how can somebody what do they need to look for in terms of cultivars? Are there some good resources that we have to help them identify cultivars that work well in their area?
Yeah, we have if you look on to like the Ohio State Extension websites, we have a lot of different articles on there. If you look up, like there's a fact sheet for your cultivar selection that is on the blog as well, and it links directly to the extension guide that shows you what you should be choosing for your turf grass species.
Okay, thanks. And so what about seeding rates? We'll finish up with seeding rates. How much seed should we be putting out? And how does pure live seed, many people may not understand the concept of pure live seed. So how does that play a role in our seeding rates?
Yeah, so seeding rates is the amount of seed for an individual species that is normally going to be established. So pure seed life is PLS. It's also put down as like pound per acre for your seeding or for your seeding amounts. I think in the article I put pounds per 1,000 square feet, but pure seed is always going to be on your label. And then you multiply that by your percent of germination, which will always be on your label as well. And then you divide it by 100, and then you will get your percent of germination seed. So when you put out, let's say I'm seeding Kentucky bluegrass for 3 acres. So I'll figure out on the back of my bag how much I need to seed. Let's just say I need to seed 20 pounds. So I would be out there seeding, and then I could also go back and see on the back of the bag that my pure seed should be at this percent, my germ seed should be at this percent. I would multiply those together, divide it by 100, and then I'd see about the exact amount or about the amount of the percentage seed that should germinate. So you're not overseeding or you're not underseeding. So you know exactly what you're going to be getting. So, you know, if you're out there doing a landscape job, let's say for like a nice yard, and you only you underseed, you're not gonna have the product that you want. Your customers aren't gonna be, you know, too happy about that. So doing this math really helps you figure out like what seed you're going to need to put out and how much percentage is going to make it through if you water correctly and if all your environmental factors and things like that work out as well.
Right. So essentially less than 100% of that seed that you put out is expected to establish.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Maranda. Yeah, check her post out. It's really, really intuitive, and she did a good job on it on our website. And be looking for Pam's post on our social media channels and the website this afternoon. So whenever we get around to putting that together. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. We have a couple more posts over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Dr. Carr and Maranda. Okay, for those of us who've joined online, is there any questions or pressing issues that you'd like us to answer, or you want to confuse us with as far as questions? You can use the microphone, or if you want to write a message or write a question in the chat box.
I might just mention that I'll ask you, what happens if I overseed? If I put down, let's say, twice as much seed, am I going to make Todd happy, or is something, or am I just wasting money that it won't all germinate?
You know, I just talked to another professor here at ATI, and he said most of the time that he'll actually seed about 1.5 times what you like figure out for your math or what you should be, just in case, you know, if you overseed, or just in case that they can actually come up, you know, because if you underseed, there's nothing there for you. But if you do too much, you're just going to have really thick grass. Or my fiance figured this out the hard way. He didn't listen to me. He spread way too much seed when he was overseeding, and it rained the next day. So all of our seed was on the concrete. So, you know, just figuring out the correct seeding amounts, not too terribly hard if you read and do the math.
Well, I think if we got a high density of germination, we'd also be making Todd very happy with Pythium. Have we any other questions from the audience, folks? Oh, it seems like we've answered everything. Again, chat box, or turn on your microphone if you feel the need. Okay, if that's the case, doesn't seem like anyone's super intrigued this week or this time. We do turn back to school next week. Our students arrive on both campuses. We continue turf team times through the end of August on a weekly basis. You will then see that it dissipates out into bi-weekly as the weather starts to calm down. The other thing, of course, is it, like I mentioned, it's August 18th for the industry hardened, experienced professionals. They will say, well, we got past August 15th, and that was kind of the days of when most destruction occurs prior to it. I would say next week might be a slight sting in the tail for that. But we will be back next week with the regular opportunity to put out information again. If you have any questions, Tyler, have you got the contact details you can share there?
Not quickly. So
So buckeyeturf@osu.edu is the email address. We've got Spotify and Twitter handles. Am I going to say this wrong? OSU Turf is that one, and then OSU_ATI_turf is the other one. And then we have the YouTube channel where the video goes up, and we've also been using Reddit of late to put out the information as well. So plenty of places to find us if you're looking for it. With that, we bid you all adieu, and we will talk to you all soon.